Hey, it's me, Jojo from Jersey. And shocker, I have something to say. I haven't said that in a while, and I don't know why I stopped, to be honest. Why I'm saying it now is because a lot of my trolls think that they're going to scare me and stop me from speaking my mind and speaking my truth and standing up and speaking out. And boy, oh boy, are they ever wrong to expect me to do any of that. Because I am not fucking around right now, and I am also not going to back the fuck down. They are emboldened because by the slimmest majority, they're bigoted, sexist, racist, rapist, adult diapered, drag-a-leg, sexual predator, inciting insurrection, convicted felon champion is getting to return to the office he tried to steal. So they think that means that they too can get away with whatever the fuck kinds of depraved basement dwelling, snuff film, pulp fiction, gimp scene, fantasy malfeasance they want. That no matter how utterly unremarkable by every conceivable measure they are, no matter how shitty their job is, no matter how many women dump them, no matter how much hair they lose on top of their heads and grow in their ears instead, no matter how small their house is, their car is, or their pants are, that they can target, threaten, and harass a single mom in Jersey they've never met and they do not know, because they'll have their golden showered shrine to degeneracy back in our house soon enough. And that means that they get to do whatever the fuck they want. And they think they'll take a stab at intimidating that lady on Twitter who uses big words, calls them dumb, and swears a lot. That lady they really don't like but can't seem to vanquish by conventional, civilized means. They think they'll shut me up. They think I'll stop making them feel bad for all of their failings and inadequacies, that I'll stop calling their malevolent mango messiah out for his immorality. But they won't, and I won't. They don't know me. They don't know the shit I've seen. They don't know the evil I've stared down. They don't have the first fucking clue as to what I've endured, survived, and turned into strength. They don't know what a mama bear will do to protect her cubs, and they don't know what I'll do if they so much as fucking mention my kids. They don't know me, and I don't know them shit, but I will do them this one teeny tiny little favor. I'll give them this one tidbit of advice. If you underestimate me, you'll do so at your own peril. Believe me. I've lived far too long and been through far too much shit to be bullied into silence by those douchebag juice boxes. I'm going to take their threats seriously. I'm going to turn my home into a fucking fortress, and I'm going to keep right the fuck on punching them and their cadre of cuckolding masochistic cunts right in their crippling inferiority complexes where it hurts them the most. And then I'm gonna get the fuck back to work, making sure my kids grow up in a country where we punish the villains and reward the good guys. Those losers need to be reminded now more than ever that if they were truly worthy of respect, they wouldn't have to go around trying to scare people into giving it to them. I'm not gonna let those weapon grade stupids scare me. Their parents told them they could be anything, and they chose disappointment. People like them are the reason we have middle fingers. And here in Jersey, that's our state bird. Joining me on the podcast this week is another fearless woman who will not back down or be quiet. Jess Piper joins me again for another wonderful conversation. I am so grateful for her voice, for her tenacity, for her truthfulness, for her fearlessness, and for her commitment to standing up and fighting and speaking out when it's hard, when it's scary, when the storm is raging. That's what she does. That's what she's always done. That's what she continues to do, and it's what she will do in the days, months, and years ahead. So I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I know I did. And to all my trolls out there, buckle up. Welcome back to the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast, my dear friend Jess Piper. We had some weather snafus here in Jersey. It is like 60 degrees and it's been raining cats and dogs, not the kind they're going to eat. That not that kind. And we're gonna have a 30-degree swing, so that all this standing water, that'll be fun to navigate tonight and tomorrow. So
It's
thanks
gonna
for all
freeze.
your yeah, what's that?
I said it's gonna freeze.
Oh yeah.
All
Yeah.
that water.
I mean, because the 30 degrees swing in weather is totally normal. Um, Welcome, Jess, my dear friend. How are you?
Hi, Joe. I'm doing really well. I'm so glad to be with you here today in Missouri. It's about 28 degrees, and we had just a little bit of snow this morning.
See, Missouri again, I think I've talked about this. Missouri is one of those states where I'm like, what happens in Missouri? What is the weather like in Missouri? Like, isn't this
You fly over
yeah,
Missouri. That's
yeah.
what happens in Missouri. Yeah. Well, I live on the Iowa border, so I'm at the very top of the state, and so we get Iowa weather. It's cold. It's cold.
Yeah, that would be north of where I am, like right? Like
Yes.
slightly north. Yeah.
Yeah.
Not again, I should just go to Missouri. I should just come visit you and see Missouri and be like,
You
oh,
should.
I've also never been to Iowa. Iowa's another one of those states where I'm like, what happens? Iowa, Indiana, Missouri, like that whole corridor right there. You're right. It's flyover country, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth visiting. And I'm sure, and I know from that show with Jason Bateman, Ozark, right? That it's
Yes,
beautiful in Missouri, but that's
it
is that the
is.
south part of the state.
That's southern Missouri, right? And that's like where I was from originally in Arkansas, the Ozarks,
Oh,
which is just gorgeous, like
yeah.
beautiful. Yeah.
Does Missouri have part of the Ozarks too, or is it all
Yep.
Arkansas? Okay.
Nope. Yeah, the southern part of Missouri is the Ozarks too. They even sound like people from Arkansas. It's confusing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, now that we've gotten a geography lesson, thank you very much. By the way, 28 degrees is cold. What's on your mind lately? Because we were texting. I know you got a lot of stuff on your mind and I want to talk about it. So what's on your mind lately?
Well, I was thinking about how different Blue Sky is than Twitter, right? I mean,
Hmm.
because I completely I left Twitter. I was all done with that. And I stayed off of everything for a while. And then everybody's like, you should try Blue Sky. And I was like, I don't really want to, right? But
Hmm.
I got on and I was like, it feels a little like old Twitter, right? It's what I felt originally. And now I'm gathering more of my people. I'm up to 100,000. I'm not up to Joe's count. I'm slowly getting back the folks, but they're different folks, Joe, and they don't know me. And
Hmm.
so when I write about rural America, they're like, screw you. I hate Trumpers. And I was like, I'm not talking about Trump. So after 4, 5, 6, 10, 12 responses, I realized what the problem is.
Hmm.
They think that everyone in rural America voted for Trump. And I was like, "Oh, this is the problem." Because I was like, "Wait, I'm a progressive person. Why are you talking to me like this?" But
Hmm.
that's why, right? And then somebody said, "Well, the maps when we see Missouri, it is all red."
Oh
I was like,
Lord.
"Fair point."
Okay, okay, fine. But like, but again, I mean, if you looked at my town, my county, we've been red for a very long time. It doesn't mean I don't exist. So it's
They
like,
hate you too, Joe.
I guess so. I mean, I guess so. Yes, statistically, they should because if you clump me and everybody who lives here in the same, pile, I'm a Trump voter. God, somebody's gonna cut
Right.
that and edit it and use it. Yeah.
They
Um,
I
yeah.
wrote about it today because it was so confusing to me. And people are always like, I mean, I have well-meaning liberals, like you get what you vote for. And I was like, you got Trump. Do you get, I mean, is that what you did? Right? Because that's the same thing that you're saying to me.
Yeah.
Joe, you don't deserve Trump. I don't deserve Trump. Nobody does. I
Yep.
didn't vote for him. And
Mm.
that's why it's disheartening when you see people turn on rural spaces. And
Hmm.
when I ran, I mean, a fourth of the people voted for me. Are we going to rub their nose in shit?
Right.
Right? You going
Right.
to hold them down and say this is your fault? No, I'm just in proximity to these people, but no, I didn't vote this way.
And this is a big problem. This is a big problem because, as you've identified many, 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 many times, if we could turn out more rural voters, who, by the way, right? Tell,
3%.
yeah, that's all. Talk about that real quick, and then, yeah, I'll finish that. But talk about that.
We don't need to change the minds of many voters. This is the lowest hanging fruit. We need to come into rural spaces and grab 3% more, and that will change statewide and national elections. And if you don't believe me, go to the Brookings Institute. They are the ones who publish the data.
Instead of doing that, and from top down, this is the thing. It's from top down, from side to side, from bottom up.
people hold those in rural spaces with disdain and like contempt almost as if they are less than. So what happens is that it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, but they're not engaging with them, so they're not there knocking on doors and talking to them. So they're not even attempting to tap into that. So
No,
you have said in the past that these are people who've never had a Democrat knock on their door. There's no, I mean, you also talk about how, we ended up with Mike Johnson because he ran unopposed because people walk away from these places. They think they're lost and that they'll never come back or that they'll never be Democrats. And it's like, but you didn't even try. And
right.
because you're looking down on them, what you're going to do if they are engaged at all, if they're voters at all, is you're going to push them the other way. So that they're going to be like, well, these people think I'm trash. Like,
Right.
why would I do anything? Why do I need to prove myself to them? Screw that. Fuck them. I'm going to do whatever I want. And if it hurts them, so be it. Like this is very small tent thinking, right? And that's this myth about our party that is starting to bear itself, is starting to tell on itself. Is that we've always said we have a big tent, right? And in theory that is very true, but the door is teeny tiny. And if we let you in, like it's kind of on a probationary basis, and with you need to acclimate, you need to become like us. Like it's not that we want to, work with you or be part of a coalition with you. We want you to become more like us. And if you can't do that, then we're going to kick you out if we ever let you in to begin with. And this is starting again. They're all telling on themselves all over the place. And this is one place where it's really revealing.
It really is. And I had a comment with someone who said, I'm just creeped out by rural areas, all those rundown double wides and those rusty tractors and those banged up pickup trucks. And I was like, wait, that's poverty. You're creeped out by poverty. So, I mean, that wasn't even a democratic issue, but again, that's elitist. I mean, that's classist to
Yeah.
say, I don't like these spaces because these people are poor.
And to use the word creeped, like to use creeped
It's like
out, like
creeped
creeped
out.
out. That scares you. It scares you that there are people who have less than you.
I know. And I
Yeah.
was like, well, I mean, yeah, that's my neighbors. They're not creepy.
Yeah.
And some of them are Democrats, right? But with that attitude, who the hell's going to vote for a Democrat? Who would do that?
Exactly. It is very elitist. And that is something that we get knocked for all the time, especially when you look at the results of this election, which obviously make it a lot of things plain. But one of the things that people will identify is that yeah, ah, because it's bullshit. But nonetheless, he still makes those people feel seen. I hate even articulating that, but like even though he does actually look down on them, he makes them
Yes.
feel as though he doesn't. That's the difference, right? And that's why you had people who voted for AOC and Donald Trump at the same time, because they talk in plain language and they don't look down on people for how they live or their station in lives or their education or any of that. Like that, well, yes, he does.
Of
He's
course.
mastered the way well, if you wrap it in a pretty like racist, white privilege, like a birthright bow, then you can convince a lot of people that you don't look down on them, which he does successfully, sadly. AOC does it genuinely. But this is another problem. This is where we lost a lot of ground because a lot of people, and I'm not going to speak for everybody, but a lot of people felt like the elitist establishment Democrats were not they were not their people, right? They were
Yeah.
looking down on them. They did think they were less than. They weren't engaging with them. They weren't listening to them. And so either they went the other way or they just didn't show up and vote, which a lot of them just didn't.
Right. And I think I need to say something right here, and that is I am not asking anyone to give rural people extra special treatment or to coddle them. Nothing. Treat them exactly like you would every other voter who you would like to vote for you, right? But we're not getting that. We
Mm-hmm.
don't, I mean, we didn't have any field offices here. I live in the 6th district, which, because it's so rural, is the entire third top of Missouri. There are 800,000 people in the entire third part of the state because it's, very rural. One field office, and it was in Kansas City, which is 4 hours from Hannibal,
Wow.
right? And so th tell me how someone can look me in the face and say they were working out here, right?
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
They're not. I've still not had anybody knock my door. I've still not had anybody call me. I've still not had anybody send me a postcard, right? Asking me for their vote. Because if I live in this space, it's just guaranteed that I'm going to vote for a Republican. And the Democrats are like, why even try? And I'm like, because you only need the 3%. You don't have to flip one seat, not one.
Right.
All you got to do is get 3% more people out in every district. And there you go.
And
And when people say, how do you pass progressive initiatives? We put abortion on the ballot and we voted to give women bodily autonomy. And then we voted for a bunch of Republicans. Well, why? Because we know this issue, we know what it'll do for us. But one, I didn't have a Democrat to vote for, so it didn't matter. And two, there was no Democrats out here working.
mm-mm.
And that is how we're not a bunch of, hillbilly racists out here.
Yep.
You just have to show up.
Yeah. And I mean, the fact that it's a foregone conclusion of any kind, that any particular, segment of the population would be voting purely Republican just based on economics or where they live, that it's completely discounting of human beings and our individuality. And and when you do that, you create a self-fulfilling prophecy. And also, like you said, when you put the issues before the voters, when you did it when all those red states that voted for Republicans as well, on the issues, they vote for the things. They vote for more rights. They vote for bodily autonomy. That they've been abandoned, or that the candidates that they ever, if they do get, are just not speaking to them. And because the machinery is not there, it's not in place. They have sort of left you to the Republicans to just sort of assume that you're their voter. And I will never understand that, because I remember when they were talking about that poll that came out about Iowa. And of course, as it was not soothsaying
Yes.
premonition of what things to come. And what was interesting was that people, and very established people on our side, were celebrating that win before the election. Ironically, none of them have eaten crow on it now, which is not at all like surprising. But I personally heard and watched people take victory laps about saying, of course Iowa was in play for us. We've been working in Iowa for decades. We've been paying attention to what's going on the ground in those states. No one noticed because it was under the radar. We weren't making a big splash about it. But of course Iowa's going to go blue. And it's like, oh, well, how'd that work out for you? Because number one, you're delusional. Number two, maybe you have more, maybe you had more infrastructure in Iowa than other places because it's Iowa, in terms of primaries, et cetera, and engaged voters, et cetera. But no, 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 you didn't win Iowa.
And that's the thing. Like I am in Iowa all the time. I'm speaking in rural spaces and they are organized. It's not at the national level. They're not getting funding from the DNC. These are women in general,
Mhm.
retired women who come together, bake food, and invite people to come once a month to talk about democratic policies, right? And I always say this, it's funny. I know if a woman isn't organizing because there's no food, no coffee, no water. That a man did that. but
So true.
but but really, I mean, I am all over the state and there is tons of organization there, but it's dying off, Joe. These women are in their 70s and then they're in their 80s, and there's not a whole lot of, when I go places, I'm a grandmother and I'm the youngest person in the room
Mm.
at a lot of these places, right? So institutional knowledge is literally dying off. Iowa could definitely go blue. It's going to take money, and no one's willing to put that into Iowa right now, right? But I mean, they at least have statewide Democrats elected. Missouri doesn't have one. There
Mm.
is not one statewide Democrat in this state. And that's why I always say, if that strategy of only giving to flippable states and flippable districts worked, Missouri'd be blue. But instead, we do not have one Democrat elected. We've had a supermajority for 22 years.
Yeah, and it seems to me like this election would be an opportunity for some people to rethink strategy and to not go back to the ways things have been done and try something new. And it occurs to me that they're not doing that so far. I haven't seen any indication of it because the same people who've been doing the same messaging are still doing the same messaging, and it's the same people.
Yep.
And that I don't see a real strategic plan or conversation like this coming from up on high. I mean, in fact, I'm not seeing much of anything related to other than pointing fingers at each other for what somebody else didn't do or did do, or building a Franken Rogan Trojan horse. I don't even know. Like, none of it is real, really, which if you wanted to have a real conversation, you'd start here. You'd start with,
Right.
where didn't we go? What didn't we try? Who haven't we tried to talk to or connect with, or motivate to vote or inspire to vote? Like, hey, what if we start with one of those states that passed, the woman's right to bodily autonomy, that looks really red on paper, but what's weird, every time you put the issues in front of them, they go Democratic. So maybe we should start there. But no,
Right.
they're not talking about that. So you are, and we are now, and everybody else needs to do that. But also, like, we need to get a handle on this like elitist thing, for sure, from not just the electeds and the candidates, et cetera, but from the base, that this is something that people need to recognize is also problematic, that we can actually make that change independent and, in our real lives.
Well, that's what I was with Blue Sky at first. I get in my feels. When somebody says something hateful to me, I get in my feels about it, right? But I've been doing this long enough. I'm a teacher, I was a parent, I can sit back and think, why did that make me mad? And then, think through it, because we can do that. We're
Yeah.
rational adults.
Right.
And I'm like, it pisses me off because you said something that's not true. It pisses me off because 3 out of 10 people out here will vote for you. Three
Mm,
out of 10. And that's not going to flip my district, but it absolutely will elect Kamala Harris. And why we don't do that, why we don't spend money in a state like Wyoming that has 2 senators, the same as California, I will never understand. It just seems like the easiest thing, the lowest fruit, the most basic thing we could do. And we're like,
mhm.
nah, we're going to pay attention to, and you're like, friend,
Yeah.
I mean, and a strategy. I'm not a strategist. I'm not a politico. But I was a cheer and dance coach, right? I know
Mhm.
how to win, and that's what we need to do. We need to find out what's going to win and do it. And I tell you how I won. I took this tiny little team that had never been to state before in their life, and I took them and I won first place. We
Mm.
walked out of there with the biggest trophy they had, and we did it because we woke up every morning at 5:45. We did it because they didn't have a gym for cheerleading, so we got up earlier than the basketball boys so we could go and do this. And
Mhm.
then I hired the best people I could find. I found a university, I found a dance coach, and I was like, "Girl, I don't know how to do this, but you do, so teach them." And
Mhm.
that's how you win. And
Mhm.
by the way, if we're going to go with coach's advice, this is the off season. This is what we should be doing right now, getting bigger, better, right?
Yeah.
Working together to get better so that when it's time, we don't need to pull somebody out 4 weeks and send them into, BFE Iowa. No,
Mm-mm.
you've had that person there for a year and you've been
Mhm.
funding them and
Right.
they know their community, right? And that's how you win. But it's not what we're doing right now. And I hope we do.
No, it's not what we're doing right now, and that is very worrisome to me, because I'm not just seeing this sort of like fall back to sort of the standard position we've always taken in the wake of this, but I'm seeing people disengaging entirely. Like, I'm seeing the
Yes.
the people that I typically look to have the loudest, strongest, most impassioned voices, just gone from the scene. Like, I don't even know where they went. They're just gone. And I mean, like, big names like frankly, the Obamas. Where the hell are they? I mean, I don't know. And lots of other voices like that, but this default position of the same thing we've always been doing, when what we just went through, and what we are now bracing for, it should cause all of us to actually start working harder than ever now. It should have
Yeah.
started when that all happened. And some of us, and I do believe that includes you 100%, some of us are trying to ring that bell. Some of us are trying to figure things out to make a different plan. And I personally know that I was talking about this before the election, because I was looking around going, something doesn't feel right. I'm telling you that this does. I see a problem here, and we all saw our own versions of different problems, et cetera, et cetera. But I would rather focus on the work now than on the autopsy of what went wrong and
Yeah.
who's to blame. Right. Just do the work. Like, do the work. Well, do something different. Try something new.
And
I mean,
that's what
yeah.
that's exactly and there's an old quote that people don't like work because it's dressed in overalls. It is. it's
Mhm.
it's not it's not fancy, it's not always fun, and it is so hard. But we have to look back at what the Republicans did. They got SCOTUS because they were pissed about FDR. like in the 30s. And it took them this long to do what they've done. It's going to take us a long time. Democrats look at 2-year sessions. They just look at every 2 years. And
Mhm.
that's so wrong.
Yeah.
You've got to pull back and you have to see that bigger thing, right? I
Mhm.
mean, like if teachers listening, they understand I can't look at today's lesson and not link it to tomorrow's and next week's and 3 months down the road, right? You have to look at this longer picture. And as Democrats, we've got to learn to work. It's hard, but we're going to have to do it.
Yeah, we don't have any choice. And in my personal life, I've always I'm not well, I'm new to this in the last several years, but what I have come to is sort of a recognition that even in the most challenging times of the greatest adversity and strife, that you do have an opportunity to sort of rebuild something all new. Take it down to the studs, so to speak, and that didn't work. It didn't work, and for whatever reason, and there's many of them, we get a chance now to build something that hopefully will work. That'll address all the things that were wrong without inherently, again, pointing fingers of blame, but just build this thing so that you're stronger to withstand whatever you lost against this time. I mean, that's in your personal life, you know what I mean? Like these are the kinds of things where you go, either I have a choice right now. This sucked and it didn't go the way I wanted to and it hurt. And now I'm like, what do I do? And my choices are, either I start building something new or I wallow in this and I get nothing. You know what I mean? We don't have the time to wallow. We have to build to something new, and we can't just have the same architects and carpenters come in with the same, nails and hammers from the dark ages. We need new ways of thinking, new ways of building, and new builders. And I think that again, I think this is an opportunity, and I think hopefully a lot of the people who are sort of capitulating in advance or sort of disappearing into the fog of everything, hopefully they make room for people who have new ideas, people who want to try something new, because we're not going to have a shot if we go did the same shit we did this time. There's no chance. It's just going to be more of the same if we have a democracy at all, which well we got to fight against right now too.
Right. And I've said this and I've written about this, but red state folks really understand this because honestly, I mean, if Kamala would have won, I'm still in Missouri. I still
Yeah.
have a GOP supermajority. I'm still having to, and so we are used to never relenting. You never stop. And people are like, oh, I'm now a resistor. I have been for the last 22 years.
Right.
It never stops, right?
Right.
And so I think we have to get in that mode of not stepping away. And I know some people need a breather. And I can tell you are too with your selection of beverages there. That you are someone who just, yes, it's a Red Bull.
Red Bull, but
She
at
was
least
like,
I have these
what?
calming mints, which I take them at the same time. It's great. And
It's
I'm
a
up.
great idea.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Yeah. All
There's a
13 of us.
mathematical equation for it, going out. But anyway, um, we have to get to where if you can stand to stay in the fight every second, that we need you because it doesn't stop. They do not relent, not for 1 second.
No, and you were so right about the long game, the strategy. I mean, you go back to like Nixon and the Southern strategy, and you think about, how they retooled everything, and then really the laying the groundwork for all of this to befall our nation, and we we have to come up. They flipped everything. They flipped it all upside down. We
Yes.
have opportunities to do that with, like, with right on our side, and morality on our side, and dignity on our side, and decency on our side, all of those things, and the truth, by the way, on our side. Which reminds me real quick, because my Substack today is about January 6th yet again, because Donald Trump spent the weekend talking about how he was going to pardon the J6ers. I hate saying that. I really do call them terrorists most of the time. Pardon the January 6th terrorists, day one. He didn't say which or whatever, but if it's like Enrique Tarrio and stuff, that's really, really, really bad. It's all bad, period. But
Yeah.
he's going to do that while he's threatening to imprison Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, et cetera. And the whitewashing, sane washing, revisionist history, rewriting of January 6th scares the shit out of me, because now you're seeing a lot of the people who have been incarcerated for this expecting special treatment because, hey, look, America put him back. Like that. okay, whatever that was, it was legitimate because he was clearly our rightful president because then America put him back. So now I'm a hero, and anybody who went after him, rightfully so, is the bad guy. And yeah, so I just want to talk about that, your thoughts on that, but also the degradation of truth and history, and how dangerous that is, and how we can stand against it. What tools do you think we have?
Well, a real quick story about January 6th. I was teaching that day, and the bell had rung for the last hour, and one of my colleagues, my department head, walked in. He said, "Just turn on the news for just a second." So I had to take attendance anyway. So I walked over to my computer and I saw what was going on. I saw them scaling the Capitol wall.
Yeah.
And I told the kids, I said, it looks like we're under attack. It looks like, Americans are, you know, acting as terrorists.
Mm.
And then I taught my lesson. And at the end of the day, we went home and I got a message from or everybody did, got an email from our superintendent telling us the next day, do not discuss what happened today with your classes, unless you're a history teacher and unless you are. And I was angry. I
Uh-huh.
was like, what do you mean? But then, Joe, I thought about this. The science teacher down the hall from me did a class assignment to gather tissue boxes because, we have to pay for our own Kleenexes.
Mm.
So the kids would earn points for bringing in Kleenexes. She made it into an activity and she had the kids make Trump's wall out of the Kleenex boxes in our classroom. And I was like, that's why my superintendent told us we couldn't talk about it. Because how would she approach it, right?
Hmm. Yeah,
She'd
that's a
be like,
very good
scale
point.
his wall. We're going to fight for Trump, right? And she's a teacher.
Mhm. Oh,
So,
yeah.
right. And so these things always go through my head when we talk about truth and what it was like. But we all saw it. All of us saw it, right? We saw what happened. And the truth will only come by having, people who will stand up and say that. And hopefully in our schools, we are teaching this in civics and social studies and history about what happened. But we can't trust that it will be taught,
No, no.
especially in certain areas.
Well, yes. And especially, well, because the person at the top has a lot of power to, literally rewrite history that he doesn't like or that doesn't suit him or that doesn't serve him. That really scares the shit out of me and it should scare the shit out of us all. So we just have to keep reminding, right? That's the thing. We just have to keep reminding. And I was working in education that day too. I was a para here in town, and I got the alert on my phone, and we were not allowed to use our phone, so I didn't care. And I saw, and I was working with other people, obviously, who, when I said the Capitol's under attack, and it looks like they're Americans that are doing it, one of my coworkers said, "Good, good," was the answer I got, and I was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I will take that into consideration, and I never forgot that because I was like, okay, maybe this is just a one-off, maybe. And of course it wasn't, right? It wasn't. We had that little brief little moment. There was a flicker of a few people having some spine adjacent moments of I'm out. I'm out.
Gone the next day. Gone the
Yeah.
next day.
As soon as they faced a little bit of blowback, and they got blowback from the good people who were like, this is what they deserve. Who they is shocking to me because they is people like Harry Dunn and Officer Gannell and the men and women of our Capitol Police Department, who were being brutalized with shields and bear spray, etc. And this is the, back the blue party. But when I go back to that moment and I realize where we are now, and that January 6th was not only not disqualifying, but that they are rewriting it to the point where they're flipping the script. It really tells me of a societal sort of systemic problem that we need to address. And then real quick, what that makes me kind of segue to, because again, people in our party are telling on themselves all the time now. This is what happens when you have something this cataclysmic, right? They start showing their cards a little differently than they might have before. And one of the ways that I'm sort of seeing an alarm bell here is in this celebration of extrajudicial violence that we've
Yes.
seen, that even people in our party are in denial that's happening in our party. It's like, well, no, let's just, I mean, look, I don't have to be sad that a terrible CEO of a healthcare of a health insurance company, I don't have to be sad that he died, but I'm also not going to be like setting up fan pages for how hot and sexy and amazing his murderer is. And this normalization and celebration of extrajudicial violence feeds right into the hands of this very same people who've turned January 6th into a patriotic moment where those folks are probably going to get a parade.
right? And the extrajudicial violence is really important to talk about for just a minute. When you think of like when people like Mexico say, the problem with the Mexican government for many years was not that Mexican people are more dangerous than people in, north of them. It's the fact that they have such a corrupt government. It's the fact that you have to, if you want protection, you're going to have to pay for it. It's like, the mafia.
Hmm.
And that's what made it dangerous. And that's the territory we're heading into. If you want something, you're going to have to pay off someone in the government to get it, right? We're seeing the most corruption. I mean, they're opening a new Trump Tower in Saudi Arabia, right? I mean, we're working with people who hack journalists to death. I mean, it's mind blowing to watch what's going on, but I always remember that the point of all of this is to distract us while they pick our pockets,
Hmm.
to say outrageous things. We're going to deport 11 million people, right? And then every one of us are like, you can't do that. So we go to the side and we start our side work because we're going to make sure they don't do that. In the meantime, they're like, we don't care. And they're picking our pockets. They're selling our government. And everything they do is distraction to
Hmm.
distract you and I. And how could we not?
Right.
You can't deport Americans. You
Mm-mm.
can't harm trans people. You can't do these things. But at the same time, do they care? Do they care if it goes through? No. They said they were going to build a wall. They
Hmm.
didn't care about the wall. They're
Right.
making money while they're in office. And that's what all of us have to pay attention to. And also do the side work of making sure they're not harming communities.
Yeah, you had mentioned the last time we talked about the super prison somewhere near you with the farmland and all of.
Arkansas.
Yeah, that's another thing that they're doing. Like, so they're like picking your pocket. They're getting rich and they're getting their buddies rich and they're doing that as sort of while making us look at the shiny outrage object over here that we need to look at. But then they're also using all of that so that they can funnel all the whatever, however many people they are going to try to deport, which is like good luck deporting 11 million people, first of all, and good luck seeing what
I
they
don't
don't.
think they're going to do that, Joe. I think they're going to put them in camps. I think they're going to build for-profit camps and
Hmm.
put these folks there. I
Yep.
really do. And because we both know that the only legalized slavery in this country is if you are incarcerated.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And they're going to say in all likelihood, this is just how this is the system we need in place. It's like a holding pattern so that we can eventually, we don't have the infrastructure to deport them all right now, but we can at least put them here, which they're building now, in these places randomly that exist that are massive, for all of these people. And then while they're there, we can use them to make sure that the price of strawberries doesn't, become so unaffordable that people are like, what's going on with strawberries? Because you're going to have
Right.
people picking strawberries in camps, and they're already testing the boundaries of the 14th with birthright citizenship related
Yes.
to children who are born here. And Charlie Kirk, they always tell themselves too. They always say the quiet part out loud, has already mentioned slavery in terms of the 14th and what I believe is happening there. Now, he's not that clever, but like you're setting the table for all of it, right? You're 100% setting the table for all of it. And Donald Trump thinks by executive order he can just be like, well, I don't agree with that anymore.
Right.
That's constitutional amendment. It doesn't matter. And because the guardrails feel so gone right now, when you go, well, what's the accountability here? What's the pushback? What's the blowback? What's the repercussion? And it's like, well, that's a very good question. And then it comes back down to us because the founders never really envisioned someone this adept at finding all the cracks and fissures and then just occupying them and blowing them all the way open. But we need some mechanisms in place. We need to build that. But in the meantime, the bulwark is you. It's me. It's the people. It's paying attention and raising the alarm.
It is, and it's so much that it can be overwhelming because I work with Blue Missouri, so we fund candidates across the state. But at the same time, we have members that we talk to who support these candidates, and so we're looking at trying to summarize 3 or 4 articles a week to send out. But they're all Missouri based, right?
Mhm.
That's not even the tip of the iceberg in Missouri, and I didn't even touch what's going on with Trump and his corrupt family members, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's just so bizarre that it happens here. And that's why when people are like, oh, I couldn't have, yes, it can. Of course it can. We're watching it happen again, right? We elected the same guy who did this before. They're doing it again. And it's just maddening
Mhm.
because it's one step forward, right? And with Trump, it's 20 back. It's going to take a long time just to get back to one.
Yeah.
And that's why um as a progressive, I can't stand to go backwards. It makes me insane.
Mhm.
And that's what we're doing.
Yeah, and we never even got to one from the last time he was in office. We're still dealing with so many of the deregulations
Yeah.
that so many industries, our food industry, I mean our workplace safety regulations on, toxins and trains and all of that. Like we never got back to one. And he's
It is
already.
crazy. It's just crazy because, like, Teddy Roosevelt read The Jungle, right? He read that novel and he was like, oh my God, what's going on with our food systems?
Mhm.
Not only would Trump never read The Jungle, he wouldn't understand it, but
No.
he is actively undoing that. I guess you saw the Truth Social post where he's like, if you got $1 billion, hey, you can pollute with impunity. We don't give a shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
does it where do people think that's going to land? You've
Mm.
got RFK saying, I'm going to clean up the food system. You're like, really?
Mm.
Really? Because he's saying that you can literally pour shit down
Yep.
drains, right?
Yep.
I mean,
No,
it's
And
insane.
and RFK really, well, as we know now, sitting on a plane drinking a Coke and eating McDonald's after saying it's poison. He's not a principled human being. There's no core there that's driving him to make America healthy. It's all bullshit. They just want power. They all just want power. And
Yeah.
1,000, it's so funny to me that people are like, well, the price of eggs is why I voted. And you're like, okay, yeah, yeah, your eggs are probably going to be glowing, iridescent, whatever
Right.
color, and they're going to cost $18.
Right.
They're going to be made the chickens are going to be eating from soil poisoned, and we're going to be breathing poison air, drinking poison water. But okay, you were voting for the price of eggs. Bullshit. It's just like, yeah. And yeah, that's why a lot of people are like, grow a garden. And that's not a bad idea. Plant a garden,
I've got gardens.
right? I
I'll teach you to can.
well, I would love to learn how to can because I know how to open a can. I know how to open a can. And I do have a raised bed garden of my own
There you
that's not
go.
yielding anything at the moment. It's very small, but I did have, and I will have again, hopefully, tomatoes and all that, and some smaller vegetables, but
Yeah,
peppers and stuff. But no, but it's also therapeutic and cathartic to do that.
it
It's
is
just good to get your hands dirty in the soil for so long as it's not, you know,
glowing.
glowing full of shit, which actually shit is good, but you know what I mean. Um,
A certain shit.
a certain kind of shit. Yeah, 'cause there's yeah, in New Jersey we have name brand shit, like really good top notch shit. Um,
Bougie shit.
it's bougie shit. That's right. And we talking about like my tomatoes, they like good shit. All right, that's how we do it. You're gonna make a good gravy if you don't have a good tomato. So, well. I mean, it's good to laugh, but also it's good to keep having these conversations, Jess. I think I really truly do believe, and I will tell this to anybody who will listen. I think that your voice is so important right now, and I keep telling everybody, watch Jess, because this is the kind of thing that we need. This is the not you're not a thing. This is the kind of energy we need. This is the kind of truthful conversation we need to be having. These are the difficult conversations too, but also like looking within, but also just meeting people where they are and like working, but never losing hope and understanding that we have to have our eyes wide open, but we can't just give in to all the suck. And you are a trailblazer, and you tell it like it is, and you've lived a real life. You talk in a real way that I think people really need to hear right now and they're hungry for. And I think that you're just going to increasingly become a leader in all of this. And I'm so grateful to just sort of be on board this SS fucking what the hell's happening with you in this fight right now.
Thank you. I love being on the SS, whatever the fuck is happening with you too, Joe. You are the best. Listen, this isn't new stuff. We had Howard Dean. He told us this a long time ago, right? He told us the 50 state strategy. And the fact that we got away from that, I don't know why, but it's just common sense. And
Mm.
it doesn't take a whole, it's not, turning everything upside down. Send out some rule organizers or fund the ones that are there. It's easy, right?
Find some good candidates. There's people there, as you know,
Yep.
and as you know better than anybody. And I think we again we have a chance here. We have like sometimes when things suck the most, that really does give you an opportunity to
It
just
does.
yeah make
Nowhere
whatever.
to go but up.
Exactly. And maybe, you know what, maybe what we were doing just really wasn't ever going to be sustainable anymore. It really, I mean, that just maybe we really need a phoenix right now. We need to build
Yeah.
something out of these ashes, and I think we are going to, and I'm not going to lose sight of that, and I know you're not either.
Yeah. I appreciate you, friend.
I appreciate you. Now tell everybody, the good people listening, where they obviously can go to your Substack. Where else can they find you now, Jess?
Yeah, so I'm on Blue Sky. I think I'm Jess Piper on there. You could probably find me
Yeah.
with that. I'm on all the socials except for Twitter now, and then my Substack is the View from Rural Missouri. And of course, you can always find what I'm doing on bluemissouri.org, and that's the organization where we are funding, down ballot Democrats just trying to make a difference. So, we funded one this year that she's down in the Boot Hill. She got 15% of the vote, and people are like, "Holy crap, what's the point?"
Mm.
15%? I mean, she got 2,000 people in the boot hill, right? What if that happened everywhere? Because remember, we only need how much?
Three.
Three. She
Mm-hmm.
got 15. This can
Mm-hmm.
happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, those are the places you can find me, and I always appreciate what you're doing.
When they go low, we go local, right? That's what we do.
That's better. That's better than what the other things I've heard.
Yeah, I can't claim it, but I said I borrowed it from a friend who yeah, I won't attribute because then it would be like, well, I'm not speaking for you, but but I will say I borrowed it, and I think it's good because it's very empowering. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep up the good work, Jess. Love you so much, and thank you for taking time for us today. Um, Everybody, check out her Substack for real. Like she got to Substack and set the whole place on fire, and for a good reason. So definitely go there and support her work. I'm very proud to be able to be a big fan. So thank you, Jess. Thanks everybody. This concludes this episode of the Are You Effing Kidding Me podcast. Stay sane. Stay. What words, Jess? Stay. I say resolute. I say relentless. Stay. One word or two words would you say? Stay something for people.
Just solidarity, friends. Solidarity. Right.